Welcome, folks. Good Tavach, Shavua Tov. Good new week. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu shehakol nidbarei.
Oh, me.
Chaim Bracha. Sorry for the delay. Welcome, everybody, one and all. Let's get into this week's Torah portion, Torah studies. Fascinating. Well, last week the Jews left Egypt, the Exodus, after 210 years being in Egypt. 86 of them harsh labor. But you know the old saying, you can take the Jew out of Egypt, but not Egypt out of the Jew? They left Egypt physically, but the Egyptians came after them. After the seventh day, the Egyptians are there behind them. The Israelites are fearful because of the pursuit. Are we going to be killed? Are we going to just jump into the Yam Suf? We're going to fight them back? Or as Moshe prays, what's going to be? And God says, V'yisou, just journey forward. Move forward. That's all that counts. Move forward. Right? Moshe Chaim, go on your phone, okay? Because it's not up here. And as we know the story, of course, the sea splits, the Israelites come across, and the Egyptians are drowned. What do the Jewish people do? They sing a song to God in praise, in thanks. And the entire nation joins in. Okay. Let's get right into it. Let's take a look. Okay. Here we are. Beautiful. All right. Oz Yashir, we say this every day in davening, right before Ishtabach, right? Say this every day. Oz Yashir, Moshe Uvnei Yisrael, El Zashir Azais, Lashem V'Yemer Lei, Marashir Lashem Kigoigo. Then Moses and the children of Israel sang this song to God. And they said, saying, I will sing to God, for he is most lofty. Okay, goes on for 19 passages. Moshe led the nation. They joined in. Right? Our sages are perplexed by the extra word in this reading, as it says, and they said saying. In Hebrew, Vayoimru Lamor. They said saying. Okay, what does that mean? I mean, they said saying. Right? Sounds a little odd. Yes. So in this case, everyone sang Shira together. And it did not need to be repeated. So then why does the Torah use the word saying? So the answer is, well, if we understand about prayer, then we'll appreciate over here. In modern times, it might be a little difficult to appreciate this because that's so relevant because we have prayer books. However, in the past, before there were prayer books, it was obligatory to pray But you had to memorize the prayer. And obviously many people couldn't memorize the prayer. So it wasn't unusual that one person would read and the entire, who knew the prayer, right? And the congregation then would follow. Well, we see this, particularly this law, in the laws of Hallel. That we say on Rosh Chodesh, on holidays, right? Praise, it's usually sung. And it's
Rabbi, by saying others follow, do they sang, like hummed along, or they just?
Let's see. Good question. So the Talmud tells us, if a child leads Hallel prayer, repeat every word after him. If an adult leads, reply each stanza with Hallelujah. What does this mean? So a child is not obliged to pray. They don't have the obligation. So therefore, they cannot help you fulfill the prayer. Therefore, you have to repeat every word after them. Is that clear? An adult who is obligated, and you as an adult that are obligated, they can have you fulfill the prayer. Therefore, by you just responding at the end, Hallelujah, right? It is similar to the idea of saying Amen at the end of a bracha that makes you fulfill the mitzvah. Like when I say Kiddush by the Fabrinyan on Shabbos, right? People answer Amen, and that's why they should not speak afterwards. If you speak afterwards, then you interrupt and to make a bracha again, which is a problem because then it's on a bracha on the cup of mitzvah, right? So one should not talk and to fulfill the mitzvah by answering Amen. So by Hallel, if it was adult leading, now remember, today we don't have that problem because not only do we have prayer books in Hebrew, not only do we have it in English, but we also in other languages, but we have it in transliteration. So you can actually read the Hebrew words in phonetics, right? So we're not talking about today. We're talking about back in the day where there was no printed books. Where, the only thing that was, everything was handwritten on parchment. So you didn't have prayer books handwritten on parchment. You had the 5 books of Moses written on parchment and, and the prophets and whatnot, but otherwise the rest was oral tradition in any case, right?
Unless you were extremely rich.
Huh?
Unless you were extremely rich.
No, even if you were. It didn't exist. Okay, in any case. So, with this then, let's introduce the Talmud speaking about what happened here by crossing the sea and the song that the Jews sang. Talmud tells us, Rabbi Akiva taught that when the Jews climbed from the sea, they were inspired to sing an ode to God. How did they sing? As an adult, he leads the Hallel prayer, and the congregation repeats the first word of each chapter. Moses said, I will sing to God, Ashir el Hashem, and they replied, Ashir el Hashem. When Moshe said, Go ye go, they responded that he is very lofty. They replied, Ashir el Hashem. Right? They just said, I will sing to God. That's according to Rabbi Akiva. Right? Rabbi Eliezer, the son of Rabbi Yossi, the Galilean, he said, as a minor who leads the Hallel prayer, right? So the first one, you don't have to say the whole thing because in an adult, it's like an adult, right? And therefore, it's like answering Amen by saying the Hallelujah, right? But according to Rabbi Eliezer, it's like a minor who leads a Hallel prayer and the congregation repeats word for word. Why? Because the minor cannot have you fulfill the commandment. So therefore, right? So the minor, that's the minor. Again, back in the day, that only the minor, for whatever reason, it doesn't matter. It's a halacha, right? The minor knew the prayers by heart, and the adults didn't. Okay. Again, that's irrelevant. How could that be? It's irrelevant. It's about the parameter of the law, right? So based on that idea, says Rebbe Eliezer, that Moshe would sing, Ashir Lashem, I will sing to God, and they replied, I will sing to God. And then he said, Goy go. They repeated, Goy go. In other words, whatever he said, they repeated it. Okay? Rabbi Nechemiah said, as a cantor who leads the Shema prayer in the synagogue, and a cantor chants the opening words in the congregation, joins him in prayer. In other words, they said the whole thing. Right? How? Just like we say the Shema. When the Chazan starts, Shema Yisrael, right? And so everybody, they're saying it on their own. Right? No one's answering Amen to the leader of the congregation, the Chazan, right, the cantor. No one is repeating word for word from him, like he says, Shema, we say Shema, Israel, Israel. No, everybody saying it on their own. Okay, so we have three opinions here about how Moshe led the song. Rabbi Akiva, Moshe led with each stanza, and the people replied with the first words of the stanza. Ashir Lashem, that's all they said. They were very repetitive. Rabbi Eliezer says, Moshe led each stanza, and the people repeated it. Ashir Lashem, they responded, I will sing to God, I'll sing to God, Ki Goy Go, the God is very exalted, God is very exalted, and so on. Right? All 19 phrases, all 19 verses, they said each verse, repeating after Moshe. And then Rabbi Nechemiah says, Moshe began with each stanza, and the people joined in. He began, Hashir Lashem, and then they said Hashir Lashem, and then together they said Ki Goy Go, Goy, right? Not repeating, but together. Okay? Now this explains why the word saying appears in text 1, right? Moshe led the Jews in prayer, but the intention was for them to join. Right? That's what it means. Right? Again, if we go back to right? Ki az Hashem Moshe b'nei Yisrael l'ashir azois laHashem v'yoimru leimor, and they said, saying. What do you mean? They said, saying, meaning Moshe led, and they repeated. Okay. Now, in that we have a three-way argument, right? We have a three-way argument of what's going on over here. Okay, so we have three questions here that we need to, or a few. First of all, everything needs to be an argument. I mean, this is getting very Jewish. Secondly, what's the lesson over here? Like, okay, remember this is Torah. Torah comes from the word hoira. It's a lesson. What is the lesson here to be learned from this? Like, what's the difference? They said it like this or they said it like that. Who cares? Furthermore, that sounds like an argument in what the facts are. We know there can't be an argument in facts. It can be an argument in understanding and perspective, right? To me, an argument is this kosher, not kosher, valid, not valid, pure, impure, right? Because there's a different perspective, a cup half full, a cup half empty, right? Those are both two perspectives of the same reality, but the reality is the same. Here, it sounds like they're different reality. Did they just, repeat the first verse? Did they repeat verse for verse? Or did they say it all in unison? Like, what happened? Furthermore, the third opinion says, like, they came up with a spontaneous prayer with Moshe. How do people know that prayer? Right? How do they know it? And if they knew it, why did Moshe have to start them? Like, if somehow they knew the prayer all of them, why did Moshe have to start them? So where we're going with this is we're going to learn something very unique. What's the role of a Moshe Rabbeinu, of a true Jewish leader? Right? Huh?
Teaching.
Okay, what does it mean to teach? What does it mean to teach? What does it mean to be a teacher? What's the goal of the teacher? Right? What's the relationship between the teacher, Moshe Rabbeinu, right, and the Moshe Rabbeinu of every generation, to those that he's teaching? What's the relationship? Not just a relationship because they're bound in soul, but what's the relationship as far as teacher-student, teacher-chassid, Rebbe-chassid, and so on? We need to understand. Okay. So there's something odd that we need to address here. Look what it says in the verse. It says, "Vayemer lemor ashira." They said, saying, "I will sing." Why this shift from plural to singular? Didn't notice that, huh? Right? Vayoimra means they said, and then it says Ashira, I will sing, which is singular. What's going on over here? The answer is the shift to the singular form tells us that they sang in perfect unity, as if they were one person. Vayoimru, they said, Ashira, right? They said in a song of one, as the Orach Chaim says in text 3a, and they said, saying, I will sing. This means one said to the other, let's sing an ode together, without difference or separation, to the point of oneness, though we are many. They concentrated together on accomplished that goal, their goal rather. They said, I will sing, in the singular tense, as if they were one person. Otherwise, it would have said, we will sing. That's amazing. They're able to transcend the bodily differences and merge in spirits into a single unified song to God. Amazing. Now, how could they do that? Well, obviously they had to have some kind of divine spirit that entered them in order to give them that capacity to be able to do that, right? They got some state of Ruach HaKodesh, which enabled them to sing as one entity. As, again, the Orach Chaim says, when their hearts were filled with complete faith and awe of his love, they sang the ode with a sacred spirit. That's amazing. But how do they achieve it? Now, obviously, God can do anything and everything. He could, put the words in my mouth, right? But it can't be merely God puts the words into my mouth, right? There's something more over here. How could they do that? Because a state of oneness is where? In soul. But we're separated by bodies. And the truth, let's be quite honest, right? Let's be quite honest. We are more motivated by our bodily needs than we are with our spiritual needs, right? We feel our back when it aches. We feel our head when it aches, right? But we barely feel our soul when it aches. It's okay. It's not a criticism of anybody, except for of me, right? But that's a reality, right? How do you merge then into this oneness, that there was this unity at that time, right? So the truth is, the very truth is, well, because that's our ultimate natural state of being, is our soul being united in its source. All Jewish souls are one, like one body, right? All Jews are akin to one body, though our bodies are separated, our souls are from one place. Thus we are like one body, for this soul is primary. So the key over here, the soul is primary, right? So the fact is, our natural inclination is for unity, is for oneness. Two Jews, three opinions. That's from the body. From the soul, we're truly united, right? That's our default position. We were before we came into this world. The problem is, we came into this world to a body, and the body covers over the soul, the hidden love that's there in the soul, and therefore it is not our natural instinct to have unity, even though it is the ultimate makeup of the Jewish people that we are one, like one body, right? So we are like one body, but we don't live that way. So how do we become that way? Or how did they become that way at this time when they sang an ode to God in such a unity, in such a oneness? How did that happen? Anybody?
Heavy question.
Simple answer. Because they had a Moses that inspired them. Because Moses, Moshe Rabbeinu, he is a collective soul that embodies all the souls of the Jewish people. Since he's a collective soul embodying all the people, and he lives it, we have a soul, but we live more with our body than we do with our soul. But he lives with his soul. He's the embodiment of it, and the embodiment of the entire Jewish people as a result. And therefore, he can rejuvenate and regenerate and to inspire every single soul that they should also be attuned to their soul. Right? So in the presence of Moshe Rabbeinu, just as many of us have experienced in the presence of the Rebbe, you're much more soul-minded than you are materially and physically minded. Because, hey, you just elevated, you're picked up from, your natural material and bodily self to be more attuned to your spiritual self. So that's what Moshe Rabbeinu did, right? Being that collective soul.
It's just like how you say it, Rabbi. Rosh Mamlecha, like the head of the Jewish people, like the brain. That's our Rebbe, and we're just like a pinky, like the body. So
right.
He's the Moshe Rabbeinu was also the unifier, I guess.
Yep, exactly, the collective soul. And I will sing to God, right? Ashir Lashem is from Oz Yashir. The text should have read, we will sing to God, for Moses and the Jews sang. It means that everyone was elevated to the point of accessing their sacred spirit. It's missing there. This enabled them to tune in to what the others were saying and collectively tune into Moshe was saying, for they were all included in the soul of Moshe. Their souls were a part of his soul. Wow. From this perspective, it's no wonder that they could tune into his words. Right? So Moshe Rabbeinu, again, the leader of the generation, and thus the carrier of the original collective soul, that was, of course, Adam, was the first all-encompassing soul. So he didn't see Jews being differentiated in different bodies. He perceived them as part of the collective soul, and in his presence, he was be able to funnel to them and to each of them what each soul needed. So just like in a body, the brain, gives the appropriate message to the eye to see, and the ear to hear, and the arm to pick up, right, and to reach out to somebody. So the brain of the Jewish people, Moshe Rabbeinu, collectively was able to give to each and every one, right? So as a result, he was able to give to them what's already inherent of them, their soul. It's just that they don't live with it as he does. So he was able to give them access to what's inherent to them, the unity that there is of all the souls, just like a body is unified, right? If my hand and my foot don't act in unison, if my liver doesn't act together with my heart, and so on, that's of course either a diseased person or a sick person, God forbid, right? And the body works in unison, directed by the brain. So the brain of the Jewish people, Moshe Rabbeinu, he's working in unison to bring each and every part of the Jewish people exactly what they need to allow their spirit, right, to sing the song that's necessary, the song of unity and oneness. But then, of course, where does it need to be initiated? By Moshe Rabbeinu. He has to initiate it. The brain initiates everything in the body, right? And as a result of him initiating, everybody was able to sing in unison. The Rebbe says in the Sikha, by opening the chant, Moshe initiated and empowered the ensuing chant of the people. This made it possible for the people to sing in complete unison, activating their collective state as their souls existed within Moshe, singing as one person with no difference or separation. Wow. What a powerful moment. Transcending your individual, separateness from each other, and, only feeling you and your specialness. No, there was a collective oneness that Moshe gave to every single one. Yes, everybody had their role, had their uniqueness, but together they sang to God an ode of praise and thanksgiving and recognition of God's great miracle of the Jewish people in a complete unity and oneness of the people. Okay. Sounds great, right? So what do we see over here, though? Very clear, a connection between the leader, the teacher, and the people, right? So we see clearly the relationship between Moshe, and in our generation, the Moshe of our generation, the Rebbe, and us. Right? Now the question is, how does that take shape in in the uniqueness, or take shape, that leadership and that connection between Moshe and the people in a united way, initiated and inspired by Moshe, but bringing a unity, and a unity not just amongst the people, but a unity and a oneness with Moshe, right? So what we've expressed is everybody express themselves, but there's different ways that they express themselves, right?
Yeah.
So let's understand. Let's understand the distinction here. We're good? Yeah, everybody's good?
Absolutely.
So, Rabbi Akiva, what does he say? What did Rabbi Akiva say? Moshe sang the whole song, all of the phrases, stanzas himself, and they just responded each phrase, no,
Oh,
Ashir Lashem. Haluka was in Hallel, right? In here, it's Ashir Lashem, I will sing to God, right? Why? Rabbi Akiva's the opinion that the relationship between Moshe and the people, between the leader, the Rebbe, and the people, is one of complete bittul, complete self-abnegation. There's no me there. All there is complete surrender. So much so that my only self-expression is Ashir Lashem. I sing to God, I sing to God. Whatever I do, this action, that inaction of not doing what you shouldn't do is Ashir Lashem. It's a praise to God. I sing to God, right? In other words, one needs to be simply a servant of God. As a matter of fact, before Oz Yashir, what do we say? What are the words that we say before, right before Oz Yashir? V'yaminu b'Hashem v'Moshe Abdei, that the people believed in God and Moshe his servant. And the Medrash says those that did not believe in Moses was the equivalent of not believing in God. So here, right, the people believed to such a degree, there's nothing for them but just to submit. Whatever you say, Moshe, you say yes, you say no, you say do, don't do, whatever it is, we're there. Complete surrender, complete bittul, given over. There's no personal agenda. There's no ego, right? I give myself, I'm ready to give myself completely over to you. And that's what Rabbi Akiva believes is the most important element in the relationship between the leader and the Hasidim. Just give yourself over entirely, right? Which we get that. That makes sense. Concept of bittul, we've spoken about so many times. Difficult as it may be, but that is very important. Now you might say, "Oh, how could you give yourself over to someone like that? Completely transcending your intelligence and transcending your feelings. It's not a complete given over." We see many political leaders who have, led many a nation astray because they were, very charismatic. They were very radical in getting submission of people to their agenda, and it led, of course, down a very horrific end. But Moshe Rabbeinu himself is someone who is submitted. As it says, he's the most humblest person on the face of the earth, right? So he himself is the embodiment of humility. And hence, this is what he wants to imbue in his people, this humility. So it's not about, be my servant, do for me. No, complete humility, do for God. And therefore you have to submit completely. Is that clear? Rabbi Eliezer says, he argues. He says, yeah, okay. Can't argue that point. And Rabbi Eliezer is arguing, is that sufficient though? Will that work long term? So he says, you know what? Submission isn't sufficient. You have to, like your teacher, like your mentor, you have to have a buy-in. Don't just submit. Don't just have bittul, but it has to go through you too, through your mind and your heart, that it becomes a part of you. That you buy into the agenda. You buy into the vision. Moshe's vision that he enumerates to you in the Torah, of course, which is God's vision, becomes your vision and your heartfelt desire, right? So it's not just submit, it's, hey, funnel it. Make it part of your mindset, your, true heartfelt desire, that it becomes a part of you, integrated in part of you. How's that expressed in the song? Moshe said Asher Hashem. They said Asher Hashem. Then became a Ki Goi Go. Oh, Ki Goi Go. Now they're taking the lead from Moshe, no question about it. He's the one who is is a teacher, and he's the one who's inspiring. But he's inspiring that we should integrate it and make it a part of ourselves, and not to be merely loyalists, but we should be true students. A true student is someone who their teacher's teachings become something that they grasp, they understand, they incorporate. It becomes their path. Likewise.
Individually.
Not just their path in submission, their path in integrating it in their mind and heart. Submission is transcending mind and heart. Bringing it into your mind and heart is incorporating and making it a part of you. It becomes your truth. And with the sentiment that, this will make it last. Because if you just submit, how long can you be submitting without incorporating and making it a part of you and internalizing it, owning it, if you will? Integrating it into your own lives, make it your vision. That's another level. Is that clear?
Sorry, just a brief question. Is it integrating that vision into you or submitting yourself to that vision? Because it seems like integrating would be like there's a separateness, whereas or integrating, you're becoming one with the leader, whereas submission, you're still separate from the leader.
No, submission is you're not separate. You're united with the leader, right? You're united with the leader.
Mm-hmm.
No, everything is a unity here. The question is, what's the angle of that unity? What does that unity incorporate? So according to Rabbi Kiva, you need bittul, self-effacement. Just Moshe Rabbeinu is the most humble. He's bringing us to a sense of humility. Humility means to transcend yourself. Rabbi Eliezer says, long term, that might be not sufficient. So you need to internalize the mission, make it a part of you. That's not transcending you. That's making it a part of you. Is that clear, Henry?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes complete sense.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. Rabbi Nehemiah goes a step further. Says it's not enough to create students that buy into the vision, integrate it, the teachings, and live those teachings that in a way that it's in their mind and heart, right? But ultimately, really what the mission is necessary and what a teacher needs to accomplish, right? What Moshe Rabbeinu and then Moses in every generation needs to accomplish, it's not merely to have people that submit, completely given over, right? Not enough that people will integrate and become a part of them, but ultimately they have to become teachers themselves, leaders themselves. Comes Rabbi Nechemiah says, the ultimate in a teacher is that he is able to allow the student not to remain a student, but to really grow to such a level that they themselves become an influencer. They themselves become the teacher. They themselves now inspire others, right? This is the idea that Moshe started the song and they sang it together with him. They were so divinely inspired that they became like Moshe. This is what it says in Rashi and Chumash later on, where it compares Moshe is Israel and Israel is Moshe. In other words, the people, they become like Moshe himself, or at least a piece of him, right? They become like him. They become the influencer. They become the teacher. Not enough that you submit, not enough that you are become the student, that, you know, the vision becomes your vision of the teacher. But now you're able to go out there and to be a leader. You're able to be the leader. Wow. That's very powerful. Extremely powerful. So I have a question. 3 opinions. Who's right?
To the layman, Rabbi.
No one wants to say you're all afraid, huh?
All three.
All 3.
To the layman, all 3. Yeah.
All 3. How so? Explain that. Put on your camera, please. How so? Don't just say something without backing it up. Not getting away with this. Explain that, Henry.
Well, I can't turn on the camera because I've got some kids near me who I'm
Okay, no problem.
supervising.
Oh, we want to see those cute kids.
Well,
It's okay.
but
Just kidding.
anyway, I would just say that because you need to have all 3 of those components. There's a component of, to some extent, you just have to completely trust the leader and understand and realize what the leader represents and submit to that. On the other hand, you also have to know what exactly the principles that you're standing up for and you're agreeing with. So you need to be informed. And then the last part, like that last opinion is that the real full manifestation of that is when you're able to spread it with other people and not just contain it for yourself. That's like the ultimate, you're not just taking, you're giving, and that's really a completion. There's giving and taking. So
Right.
all 3.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So that's the truth. They're not arguing. They're just emphasizing different components that are necessary. And all 3 of them are necessary. You can't be a leader if you don't have the bittul. You can't jump to number 3 without going through number 1. And then number 2. Not possible. You're not a leader. then you're a megalomaniac. You're an egoist. You're not a leader. For over 40 years of the Rebbe's Fabringens, almost never did he speak about himself as the leader of Chabad. He would always say, the Rebbe, the Shver, the Sidorenu. The Rebbe, Shver means father-in-law, the Sidorenu, the leader of the generation. 30, 40 years after his passing, which is coming this Wednesday, Yud Shvat, the 10th day of Shvat. 76 years ago, he passed away. And 40 years later, the Rebbe is calling the Rebbe the Shver, the Sidorenu. What's going on? Because for the Rebbe, first of all, his father-in-law was alive in spirit, right? It was alive for him. And he didn't feel that he's anything but a continuation of him. It was such a bittul, such a self-effacement, that Rebbe was at the same time, of course, everything, from that bittul, that self-effacement, from that humility, then from there you could build on it, that you could now internalize the teachings in a manner that they become a part of you and they become your inner truth. Right? When you're completely given over, transcending the mind and the heart, that's powerful. But you need to also then internalize it and bring it into the mind and the heart. To own it, make it yours. Right? You're not taking and removing away at all the first level. It's not like, the bittul now is gone, and now I'm, became a more of a mensch. I'm not transcending my intelligence. No. The transcendence is still there. At the same time, you incorporate that in a way that you internalize it into mind and heart. Once you've done that appropriately, then you have the capability of transcendence of mind and heart, and at the same time, it is completely owned by you in your mind and heart, the teachings, the path, the mission. And now that makes you someone who could truly be a leader. But as all leadership, it's because it's thrust upon you, not because you seek it. Those that seek honor, honor will run from them. Those that run away from honor, honor will come their way. Those who want to be leaders, they're running for it. That's why leadership today is so looked down in the world, is because everybody's running for it. They're running for it because the leadership, makes you honored in the eyes of others, makes you, that you're special in the eyes of others, right? And comes the Torah and tells it, no, not going to work that way. So these three levels are most definitely the path that it needs to take in the order as we presented them. And each one has a uniqueness and a value that is in itself more important than the other. But each one of them is not sufficient alone. You need all of them. Does that make sense? Very powerful, very beautiful. So that brings out the uniqueness of the relationship between us and the Moses generation, and therefore brings out a unity between us as the Jewish people. And how important this is again, as I mentioned, Tuesday night, Wednesday is Yud Shvat, the 10th day of Shvat. The Rebbe became Rebbe. As the Rebbe continues the leadership 75 years later, and how will that leadership continue? Of course, it will continue in this manner, and how we relate to the Rebbe, the Moshe Rabbeinu of the generation, and at the same time, by the very fact that we relate in this way, that will create the true unity between the Jewish people. The Jewish people are truly united in a way that we completely give ourselves over in a transcendent manner to the mission, even though we might not at times understand and get it, but it's not about our understanding. We give ourselves over. And then we can appreciate it intellectually and feed our emotions, that we are appreciating and understanding, grasping the mission of changing the world for good to bring the final redemption. And then, especially after Gimel Tammuz, that now we have to be that piece of the Rebbe that's inside of us, to reveal it, and to be that leader, as Israel is Moses and Moses is Israel. So we become that leader today, that through us we can truly inspire others and move others, that they should kera Welt, change the world today.
Amen.
Very powerful. So this Wednesday, everybody should write a pan, a pidyon nefesh, a redemption of soul, write a letter to the Rebbe in honor of the occasion. Jewish people, non-Jewish people, to the Oyel, to the resting place of the Rebbe, at the gravesite. You can send it by email at Rebbe, REBBE, at Ohel Chabad, OHEL Chabad.org. You can find it online very easily. And I'm going to be at the Ohel myself, but more importantly, that you write yourselves. That's the lesson today. Don't just submit it to me, your name. Be a leader. Write in.
There's also an app, Oihel.
There's an app, Oyel.
That's it, Oihel.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah. And together with the unity of the Jewish people, led by Moshe Rabbeinu, there's no question, the redemption is ot. It's just, we're on the threshold to cross over the line into the final redemption, and the building of the third base of Migdash, in gathering of the Jewish people.
Amen.
And may it be Hayom today. L'chaim, l'chaim.
Amen.
Any questions, any comments, any thoughts? No? Clear? Amazing. Let's see online. I did make sure online. Any questions? TRC coming up. Yes, there's a replay of this on YouTube or on Facebook. You can catch this there at Tanya Rabbi. So, feeling of awe, communicate. Okay. Okay. Amazing. Thank you, folks. A good Woche. A good gebenchte Woche. All good